In this video, we try to answer the question of if the Apple Watch is any good for triathlon. As of the recording of this video, I've been swimming, biking, and running with the Apple Watch Series 7 for about 10 months now. And more recently, I've been testing the new triathlon-specific features on the yet-to-be-released WatchOS 9 operating system. And then this past weekend, I got to test all of those new features in the Columbia River Sprint Triathlon race. Okay, if you want to get my quick opinion on this watch so you can move on to another video, personally, I believe that the Apple Watch, and in particular this Series 7, is a very, very good watch for, some triathletes out there. And I think the key thing to keep in mind is that it is very much a smartwatch first and a sports watch second. And that coupled with the lack of an extended battery life, it may be a problem for, a lot of the regular viewers of this channel. The new triathlon race features with its automatic splits does work very well, but I did have some odd issues just with the watch in general while racing that I'll go into detail about. Now, triathletes will, by and large, be using the individual swimming, biking, and running activities, much more than the actual triathlon race type activity. But I've been using the built-in activities, the Apple-made apps for that. However, if you guys have had good experience with a different application, definitely let me know about that in the comment section. We can do a video kind of talking about third-party apps, stuff like My Swim Pro and Strava and Cycle Meter, any of the best apps for triathletes that you guys can think of. But I would say that the lap swimming with the Apple Watch, it's okay, but it's not perfect. For example, you can select your size of pool, start swimming, and it'll show you, total time, active calories, total number of laps, and total distance. However, with the new WatchOS 9 that should be launching this fall, you can actually change those metrics with something that Apple calls their workout views. Very nice. You can set up views with, calories, distance, heart rate, laps, and pace. So it is a lot better. I will say, if you are coming from something like a Garmin watch, you still might look at those options and be, slightly disappointed with your choices. My biggest issue is that there doesn't really seem to be an easy way to take lap splits with the Apple Watch. I'd like to take a split, after each interval and then have it show me rest time. And I get it, as of WatchOS 4, the Apple Watch will auto detect rest. I just, it's always a couple seconds off. It's just not perfect. And you can pause your swim workout by pressing the digital crown and the side button at the same time. I just think that, pausing your swim is not the same as a lap split. Now, new in the beta software for the Apple Watch is the ability to auto detect kick sets, along with detecting, which type of swim stroke you're doing, which I would say would be really cool if it worked well. In this workout, according to the Apple Watch, I swam 1,700 meters all breaststroke. If you know me and you know my breaststroke swimming abilities, you know how hilarious that is. But this is beta software, so we definitely can't be too judgmental on that particular feature yet. I have a feeling that Apple will kind of work out the bugs eventually. And just as a side note, I definitely find the way that Apple ejects water from its little speaker on the side vaguely satisfying, I guess. It's an odd little feature, but I find it pretty cool. And then, when it comes to open water swimming, I found the Apple Watch hit or miss. Sometimes it would be spot on. Other times it would be off by up to like 20% of the distance. And I made an entire video, just talking about best open water swimming watches if you want to check that out. But I will say that, if you enjoy open water swimming, the Apple Watch might not be the absolute best option, but it'll do a decent job of tracking your open water swims. Now, similar to swimming, I would say that cycling with the Apple Watch is, okay, but not perfect. With the new beta software, you can adjust the visible metrics that you see, things like calories, distance, duration, elevation, heart rate, and the pace that you're cycling. But that's still pretty much it. And again, I would say that if you're coming from a different brand like Garmin, you're probably gonna find those options extremely limiting. There is also, no ANT Plus option. It's Bluetooth only with this watch. I would definitely love to be able to connect this watch to, a few more external bike sensors, like my power meter, or even my bike radar unit, which I think can be extremely helpful when cycling. Now, battery life on this watch might also be, something a little bit lacking for cyclists. I know a lot of you guys like to go on some very, very long rides. And if you think you might ever mix it up and go over, 7 or 8 hours or so, then you're probably gonna wanna at least tweak some of the settings on the Apple Watch to try and extend that battery life for those distances. Now, I also found exporting data from the Apple Watch to be a real pain in the ass. You constantly have to go in and import workouts into Strava. There's no easy way to do it automatically. And then there's not any sort of native support for exporting things like .fit files or anything like that. I actually have found an application called HealthFit that does do a really good job on that front, and it does have a lot of other cool features. I'll leave a link to that particular application in the description below. Now, I also think that an easy, serious suggestion for cyclists that like to use the Apple Watch would be to consider using a dedicated cycling computer and then just only using the Apple Watch, more as like a backup device when it comes to tracking your bike rides. I just think that, ultimately that's how you're gonna end up being more satisfied with the particular tracking of cycling on the Apple Watch. Now, of the 3 sports, I actually think the Apple Watch handles running the best. So for example, if we look at GPS accuracy, you can see here the Apple Watch in purple going against a new watch from Polar called the Polar Pacer Pro, that's in red. And most of these trails are just out and back, single track, thick trails. So the lines should actually be pretty tight together. And you can see that the Apple lines here are much better than the Polar in this particular case. On another run, comparing the Apple Watch Series 7 to the Garmin 955, that's the watch that has multi-band GPS, multi-band meaning that the watch can actually connect to multiple satellites at the same time to increase accuracy. And the Apple Watch still holds its own here, just kind of on this neighborhood run. And I've actually been really impressed with the Apple Watch when it comes to heart rate accuracy. It's probably one of the most accurate wrist-based heart rate monitors that I've tested on this channel. Here it is in light blue, tracking really well against the Garmin 255 that's actually connected to a chest strap. And of course, the chest strap is just, the most accurate way to monitor your heart rate. Now, I think what many of you guys are gonna find interesting is that the new upcoming WatchOS 9 operating system will now include things like running power, ground contact time, stride length, and vertical oscillation metrics, which is actually pretty cool. Here we're looking at, Polar's running power versus Apple's running power. And you can see for the most part, the spikes line up here, but keep in mind that, you can't really do like a raw number comparison between brands. That would be useless. Each company uses their own math to calculate an estimation of running power. So, we really shouldn't compare, one brand's running power to another's. But it is still a really useful metric, when training or racing, and you want to compare your numbers from your previous runs with the same device to your current numbers. And with WatchOS 9, the multi-sport activity has really been improved a lot. You can now set it to do a number of different types of multi-sport events. So that could be, a normal triathlon with an outdoor swim, bike, and run. But you can also set it up to do like a run, bike, run, or a swim bike, or a bike run, or a custom event with running, biking, open water swimming, or indoor running, or indoor biking, or even a pool swim activity. So there's a lot of flexibility there. And WatchOS 9 can also auto-detect your splits in a triathlon, meaning that you don't have to hit a split button where you're actually out there racing. You just hit the start button and the stop, and then it'll figure out when you finished your swimming, your transition 1, your biking, your transition 2, in your running splits. And I actually tried that in a sprint triathlon over this past weekend, and it actually worked out pretty well for me. I wore the Apple Watch with the automatic splits turned on, and on the other wrist, I wore the Garmin Forerunner 955, where I manually took splits, right on the timing mats. So on the left here are my Garmin splits, and then on the right are the ones from the Apple Watch Series 7. I will say, for the love of God, please don't make fun of my times in the comments section. I just had Achilles surgery and I can come up with more excuses. But I will say, probably the worst part for me with using the Apple Watch in an actual race was the fact that this particular race started in the water. And to start a race activity, you actually need the Apple Watch touchscreen to function. And I actually wasn't able to get this watch started when my race was about to go off because the touchscreen was struggling, it was wet, and it was just a complete nightmare. I actually thought that I was gonna have to get out of the water, find a towel, dry off my watch, start the race, get back in the water, get going like minutes after my race had started, all because I really wanted to test this new triathlon mode on the Apple Watch. And I couldn't get the thing started. Definitely not ideal. But luckily I was able to, finally get this thing started like right as the race was going, so that we could test those automatic splits. And as we look at these, I should note that the timing mat where I took my Garmin split for the swim was up the beach a good bit, so we really shouldn't expect splits to match exactly here. But when we look at these, on a GPS map, we do see that the Apple Watch took a split really well right when it came out of the water, compared to the Garmin manual split that was up the beach a little bit. And personally, I think that the Apple Watch did a really good job here. It looks to me like the Apple Watch actually added a little bit onto my bike. To me, it kind of looks like the Apple Watch is looking for a spot where I stopped and stood still to trigger that transition split. So the T2 here is a little bit short, but then the run looks really good to me as well. Now the latest beta software does have the ability to turn off those automatic transitions, but for me, personally, I actually think I would leave the automatic splits on. I actually think it works really well, and I would just prefer not to have to hit a split button, mid-race. But, as I finished this race, it definitely took me a little bit of time to actually hit that finish button, because again, you do have to unlock the particular touchscreen to get to the touchscreen and make it active. Again, it buzzes to kind of kick the water out of the speaker. Just takes a little bit of time to swipe over and actually finish the activity. So, obviously the Apple Watch isn't perfect. I found the touchscreen pretty annoying in a race. I definitely wish there were more cycling connectivity options. And I will say that the battery life is definitely not ideal on the Apple Watch. During this particular race, it took like an hour and a half. The Apple Watch lost about 20% of its battery life. So, if we extrapolate that out, you might be able to expect, I don't know, like 7-ish hours of GPS life on the Apple Watch. And I don't know for sure because I haven't tested that fully. But I think, if you're comparing this watch to other triathlon watches on the market, battery life might be kind of a glaring issue with the Apple Watch. So, of course I have a few complaints, but the Apple Watch is exceptional when it comes to things like GPS accuracy and optical wrist heart rate accuracy. And I also love closing my activity rings on the Apple Watch for whatever that's worth. And of course, the Apple Watch integrates extremely well with my iPhone. So when it comes back to that big question of, is the Apple Watch a viable triathlon watch? I would say, yes, maybe. I think it really comes down to a few things. If you're okay with this watch being, more of a smartwatch than an athletic watch, and you're okay with a little less connectivity options, and you're okay with charging this watch each day, and you're not planning on doing any sort of crazy long triathlons, then, yes, the Apple Watch works, and it works really well. And that new Multisport auto split feature works extremely well also. So I would say in the right circumstances, it's a decent option for triathletes. And if you've had any personal experience with this watch, definitely let me know in the comment section. And don't forget to let me know what apps I should test and look into, and I'll add them into a future video talking about apps on the Apple Watch. I also did rank the Apple Watch alongside 12 other triathlon watches if you want to check that out. And I also compared this watch to 15 other watches when we looked at, best open water swimming watches. Either way, be sure to get out there, swim, bike, run, rinse, and then repeat it all over again. And we will see you guys on the next one.